Welcome to the press conference on Batch 6 of Revitalizing Historic Buildings Through Partnership Scheme. Let me introduce the speakers to you. We have Mr. Michael Wong, Secretary for Development, Professor Lau Chi-Pang, Chairman of the Advisory Committee on Built Heritage Conservation, as well as Mr. Ivan Ho Zhang, Commissioner for Heritage. The Secretary and the Chairman will deliver some opening remarks before we have a Q&A session. Secretary. Thank you, Professor Lau, Mr. Zhang, Commissioner for Heritage, and members of the press, and also applicants to Batch 6 of the Revitalizing Historic Buildings Through Partnership Scheme. Whether your applications are successful or not, I'm sure you're enthusiastic in conservation. Good afternoon. Today we will announce the result of the first phase in Batch 6 of Revitalizing Historic Buildings Through Partnership Scheme. We started receiving applications in December 2019. We have the Taitam Tuk Raw Water Pumping Station staff quarters at Taitam, Homby Villa at Ting Kau, King Yin Lane at mid-levels, and Fong Yun Study Hall at Ma Wan, and also former North Kowloon Magistracy in Sam Shui Po. Because of COVID-19, we've extended the application period to January 2021. We have received a total of 12 applications. For Taitam Tuk Raw Water Pumping Station, we've got 9 applications, 10 for Homby Villa, 18 for King Yin Lane, 5 for Fong Yun Study Hall, and 30 for the former North Kowloon Magistracy. We're very grateful to the Advisory Committee on Built Heritage Conservation, chaired by Professor Lau Chi-Pang. Members have conducted site visits of all the monuments, and they have met with the proponents, and they help to deepen their proposals. Here I'd like to thank Professor Lau and members of the Advisory Committee for their contribution. The Advisory Committee has made recommendations to the government. We have in principle accepted the recommendations, and we've accepted proposals from the following NGOs. First, for the Taitam Tuk Raw Water Pumping Station staff quarters compound, the selected applicant is Livewire Foundation Limited, together with the Harbour School Foundation Limited. Together, they developed the site into something called the Earth Eco Art and Culture Revitalization. They will provide nature-based early childhood education there, teacher training and after-school nature-based experiential learning activities, and they will also provide water and leisure and cultural activities, so on and so forth. They will set up a water gallery to display the history of the water supply in Hong Kong and the historical significance of the declared monument. The next project is Homby Villa. The selected applicant is the National History Education Hong Kong Limited. They will develop a Chinese National History Education Yo-Yo Villa there. They're going to revitalize Homby Villa into a learning center that integrates Chinese history and culture with environmental studies through visits, exhibitions, guided tours, lectures, and workshops. They will enhance the public's understanding of Chinese culture and history, and to have a better understanding of Chinese history. They will have a restaurant serving Indian and Chinese cuisine to reflect the cultural background of Homby Villa and the Rattanji family who used to live here. The third item is King Yin Lane. Tianda Institute and International Poor Tea Association Limited and Chinese Medicine Global Promotion Association Limited have been selected to run a healthy living center based on pu'er tea and TCM there. They will revitalize King Yin Lane into a healthy living icon and a learning center to enhance the public's understanding of pu'er tea and traditional Chinese medicine and medicinal herbs. They will use the project to promote healthy lifestyle. They will also use the architecture of King Yin Lane to reflect the lifestyle of the Chinese community in the upper circle in Hong Kong from the 1930s to 1980s and to promote a work-life balance, healthy lifestyle. Fong Yun Study Hall, located in Ma Wan, will be run by the Boys Brigade Hong Kong. The Grade 3 monument will be revitalized into experiential learning center. They continue to expand the original school function of Fong Yun Study Hall. They will add STEM innovation elements in its history, culture, and environmental ecology activities to attract participants of different age groups and to carry through the educative mission of Fong Yun Study Hall. They're going to organize guided tours to connect the local community so as to consolidate and build up the community capital of Ma Wan. For the 4 accepted proposals, the government will set aside $586 million for revitalization, and $15 million will be set aside for the initial operation of the 4 projects, which will help to create jobs. We believe that starting from 2025, as these projects are commissioned, they can provide a total of 98 jobs. And then most of the 4 monuments will be open to the public. There will be free open days and guided tours so that the public will have more opportunities to appreciate and enjoy the historical facilities there and enhance their sense of conservation and revitalization. The Development Bureau will assess the selected applicants to complete the planning, design, and advanced works of the projects. And depending on the need and situation, we will make appropriate applications to the Town Planning Board. When the planning and design work is completed, we will assist the selected applicants to seek funding from the LegCo for the repair and revitalization works. In batch 6, we've also got the former North Kowloon mattress chassis because this item started to receive applications 8 months after the other 4, and response has been very enthusiastic. A total of 35 proposals have been received, and so the advisory committee will need more time to examine the various proposals. We believe that the whole vetting work can be completed in the latter half of 2022. The Secretary Bureau launched the revitalization scheme in 2008 so that members of the public can have the opportunity to enjoy old historic buildings. And we hope that through these projects we can revitalize older districts, provide job opportunities, and provide the necessary community services. It's been 15 years since the start of the scheme, covering 22 historical monuments and 10 already in operation. So far, we've got 5 projects that has got the UNESCO Asia Pacific Cultural Conservation Award. We're very pleased. This goes to show that our standard of revitalization and architecture are well received by the international community. Within this year, we have 3 projects that will be commissioned.
So much I have to say for the time being. I invite Professor Lajipang to brief you on the screening work and the reasons for picking these projects. Secretary, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to share with you on behalf of the Advisory Committee on Built Heritage Conservation, the batch 6 of the revitalization program. We were set up in 2016. We've taken over the application work that was going on. We have had regard to the experience of batch 5, and in this program we will adopt the established principles. Like we require the precise number of pages in the application, and the applicant will only need to make available the concepts. It's only at the second stage that they should make available more details and more detailed proposals. The idea is to let us know more about the ideas and the concepts of the applicants. And in the first round, they don't need to go to considerable efforts and expenses to put forward the proposals. Also, in response to public aspirations, we hope that upon completion of these projects, the members of the public will be able to make use of these historic buildings. So we require the applicants to let us know the details about how they open up the facilities, whether there will be any guided tours over the weekend, and the number of days that they open for the public. And you might be more concerned about the assessment criteria. I think this may be mysterious to the outside world. As the Secretary said, there are 4 projects. We've received a total of 42 applications. We've held 9 meetings in 2 stages. For the first phase, we examined the conceptual information in the application form, and from the information we have shortlisted 14 organizations and moved them on to the second phase of assessment. Now, for these 14 organizations, they have to supply more information about the ideas, and then we shortlist 6 out of the 14 and move on to the next stage. And the committee and the Bureau would require further, more detailed information. After a year of assessment, we have shortlisted 4 winning entries, and we cover the 4 elements. The first one is to show the historical value and significance. The second is social value and social enterprise operation. Third, technical aspects. Fourth, financial viability. And fifth, management capability. So over the years, this committee and the previous committees have always adopted these criteria, which have not changed much. And these are the 4 criteria for selection. Now, the Secretary has already told you about the 4 projects in the 6th batch. Perhaps I'd like to take this opportunity to brief you on what these 4 projects are all about. The first one is the Tai Tam Tok Raw Water Pumping Station Staff Quarters Compound. Members are really excited about this project, but at the same time there are quite a bit of challenges, because this is a compound and this is not an isolated individual block, and there are 9 applications that came in. We have selected the Livewire Foundation Limited, and this is the cooperating organization is the Harbour School Foundation Limited. Now, for this declared monument, this is going to be an amalgamation Right, this is the one. Amalgamation of activities and education. If you look at the history in the development of Hong Kong, it has some really unique features. It goes back to the early part of 19th century. This is to cater for the demand for water. And this is really a gargantuan project which is operated by a team of staff members. So they have provided staff quarters to make sure that the water pumping station will be in operation 24/7. Now, because of automation, we don't really need to have any staff members to operate the pumping station anymore. So the quarters have been lying vacant. As you can see here, it is close to the Taitam Bay. If you've been there, you probably are aware that this is a really picturesque bay. It is set in a little bit, which is sheltered from any waves. You can see that there are some boats and some dwellers who are using the bay. The Secretary has already mentioned all the details a moment ago. We had a fair amount of discussion with the applicant. The committee is of the opinion that this project would take full advantage of this quarters compound, and this is in merging the nature with education, and the fisher folks culture is also highlighted. This is really fitting a project for this particular location. The second one is Homby Villa. As you can see from these photos, this is a really interesting and fascinating project. We've received 10 applications, and we've selected the National History Education Hong Kong Limited. And this is to revitalize this into a learning center that integrates Chinese culture and Chinese and history studies with environmental studies. So it is steeped in culture and history. And this is also having regard to the environment that it is sitting on. As the Secretary said, this is a Grade 3 historic building. It was built by an Indian merchant, Mr. Rottenji, in the 1930s. He built this private residence of his own. And as time rolled by, these residence became a government property. The selected organization would like to organize a whole host of activities like exhibitions, guided tours, lectures, and workshops. The members of the public will be able to take part in these events to learn more about the history of Shenzhen and Chunwan. This is sitting on an area in between Chunwan and Shenzhen. And people can get a better understanding of the Indian community, and they play a particular role in our society. And there is also a study of the history. If you've been there before, you know that this is a really fantastic area, and you can get a really fantastic view of the Chiangmai Bridge, and this is a wonderful location for gazing at the sunset. The committee is of the view that this applicant will be able to turn this Homby Villa into very much an attraction in Chunwan.
This has been long awaited. Members of the advisory committee have been frequently asked the question of what will happen to King Yin Lane and whether there is any partner, and when can the application be approved. And as a result, we received 18 applications for this. This is very pleasing because it's not easy to revitalize King Yin Lane because experience from the previous committee told us that it was not easy to find a fitting applicant, and we have ultimately selected the Tiandag Institute and the International Pool Tea Association Limited and Chinese Medicine Global Promotion Association Limited. So King Yin Lei is a big mansion with the hills as the backdrop and facing the beautiful sea view. And this is a very classical building. It blends well with Chinese tea drinking culture and also traditional Chinese medicine. We've also considered the compatibility of the partnered and the building here. I think it is a very suitable developer. It suits the leisurely and passive environment of King Yin Lei. The architectural style of King Yin Lei attracted many films shooting there. Local TV drama as well as international movie were shot here. So, and that is The Soldier of Fortune and Delightful Dream of the Capital, an international movie and a local TV drama respectively. So the public are very familiar with the architecture, and therefore we must identify a fitting partner to operate King Yin Lei. We believe we can showcase King Yin Lei to both international and local visitors, and we can also enhance people's understanding of poor drinking and also Chinese traditional medicine. The last is the smallest scale project in this batch. There is a saying, small is beautiful. I think this is a good example of the saying. When I'm talking about Fengyun Study Hall, we received 5 applications, and the partner selected is the Boys Brigade Hong Kong to turn this grade 3 building into experiential learning center. That echoes the original function of the study hall. It was a school in Ma Wan before the war, and a traditional Chinese study hall providing old learning curriculum will be turned to a modern village school. A series of activities will be introduced. There will be different thematic guided tours, workshops, and also STEM-related studies. It will create learning experiences for people of different age groups. We have to bear in mind that Fengyun is on Ma Wan, and so Experiential Learning Center will also feature the fishing village characteristics of Ma Wan.
And they will showcase the fishing village of Ma Wan in the old days. On the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that there is a terrace built into it. And this will provide a new environment for enjoying the historic building, and also for some interaction, for some gathering, and so on. The selected applicant, the Boys Brigade Hong Kong, we selected this organization because it's been there for a long time. It's very acquainted with R1 and how we can, in this tiny little place, unleash the potential of the historic building. We are confident that they will be able to run this study hall in a way that will achieve the best possible interactive effect. So to sum up, this revitalization program started in 2008. It's been 14 years, and this is batch number 6. We have received so many innovative ideas for adaptive reuse. Now, the results are plain for everyone to see. There are projects that are in operation, and there are projects that are in the pipeline, and all of them are really truly exciting. Looking ahead, we will take stock of our experience and roll out more projects for the enjoyment of the members of the public. Finally, on behalf of the advisory committee, I'd like to extend my gratitude to all the participants in this batch of program, and we hope that we can join hands to make our contribution to the preservation of our heritage. And I wish all these projects every success going forward. Thank you very much. Now it's time for questions. Please raise your hand, and the mic will come to you, and please identify yourself and also the organizations that you represent. The gentleman in blue on the 4th row, please. Economic Times, Chen Chi-wai. 2 questions, if I may. First, for these 4 projects, some of them are in remote areas. Now, the Feng Yun Study Hall, it was unable to go on. It had to be closed previously. Are there any measures to enhance the viability despite the remoteness of these projects? How are you going to overcome these difficulties? Second, the pandemic, has it taken a toll on these projects that are already in operation? Are they indicating that they have to extend the viability period? Now, Feng Yun Study Hall had to cease operation. Will there be any projects that will be suffering from similar fate? Right, let me take the second question. The pandemic, it does have some impact because they need to have the footfall for them to make a profit. There are less visitors, and that there was some impact. From the anti-epidemic fund, $4 million have been set aside to improve their cash flow. So from what we heard, they are doing okay. And as the pandemic is easing with more visitors, they will be doing better. I wouldn't say that they are inaccessible. The Feng Yun Study Hall was run by the Yun Institute. They cease operation maybe for some different reasons. Professor Lau can supplement. For new projects in the long run, they have to be financially sustainable, and it's only when we consider that they are financially viable that we give the approval. If we can give more publicity to these projects and lure more visitors to these projects, we are only delighted to do so. Professor? Well, let me address the question about the remoteness of the Feng Yun Study Hall. The secretary has already said that for the previous operator, it was because of the changes to the operating policy that they cease operation. Now we have identified a partner that can address your question, because they are very much on the ground. They've been there in Ma Wan for some considerable time. They know Ma Wan very well. And the other thing is, we can see that for the various batches of the revitalization program, we have projects of different sizes. And Feng Yun Study Hall is a project of a smaller size, and for a small community, and this is a pretty fitting project. So we are confident that the operator should be able to cope. Now, in terms of the operating difficulties, we have overcome these difficulties. Last month, we opened we had a session, a workshop for the operators to share their experience. I thought that I would hear a lot of grievances, but that was not the case. The commissioner was there as well. They were pretty delighted, despite all the challenges. They were sharing their challenges, and they found that despite the difficulties, despite the raging COVID, they were able to find some ways to survive, and they could compare notes, and they were able to share their experience. Now, for the new operators, for batch 6, they are prepared to share their experience with you. They will be getting in touch with you and let you know how they can survive the difficulties. I'm sure that this is going to be very desirable sharing. Next, please. Lady in the middle on the 3rd row, please. HK01. The first question is about King Yin Lei. Now, the project fell through twice in the past. You've made some adjustment this time, and the organization found it easier to meet the requirements. Why was it so difficult in the past for it to be up and running? Now, there are some projects that will be undertaken, like there will be some staircases and escalators to link up with the swimming pool. And what will the projects like? Will this have any implications on the facade and outlook of the King Yin Lei? And also, the capital cost is close to $200 billion. How confident are you that the organization will be able to be financially sustainable? And my second question about the jumbo floating restaurant. People do have diverse views about these jumbo restaurants. Right, sorry, let's focus our attention on these projects first and leave the other projects. Well, let me get another question about the Feng Yun Study Hall. Maybe because of the lack of visitors and experience of the operators, they cease operation. You said a moment ago that you're confident that there will not be a repeat of this this time. Can you elaborate further? Why are you so confident in this operator?
I defer to Professor Lau. All right, I'll first talk about King Yin Lei, which is a challenging project, and therefore for 2 times the decision was not to approve the applications because they were not entirely satisfactory. Now, we have been talking about King Yin Lei for 2 decades because it is a great monument, and it has got 3 stories. We don't want the second and third stories to be open, and we may have to install elevators and change its structure. So we have to find an operator that give him room to add a new wing. And there was such a proposal in previous applications. And so for this one, there is also this feature. And we have chosen this applicant. We have relaxed our requirements. Now I think we have found a right applicant. The scale of operation cannot be too big or too small. Now here, this one, it can run a suitable number of activities with a sustainable business. So people would come here for a cup of tea, and then when we saw this proposal, we at once felt relaxed. At long last, it's not like previous applications where there were many activities proposed which we found rather difficult. But this time we are quite confident. I hope you will share our confidence. And we have been to King Yineng a number of times during open days. So you have to understand that we can't allow too many activities here. Well, we must have something happening here. So this is a challenging place, and I think the scheme can suit our needs. And as for Feng Yun, again, it is a very unique place. Ma Wan is not that you will go to Ma Wan very often, because there is transport restrictions. Now, first we gave the project to Yun Yun Institute. We believed it had some advantages. But then Ma Wan redevelopment back then was not very satisfactory. There were vacant houses. Now, Feng Yun Institute had to develop together with the community. But now Ma Wan is a developed community, and the selected applicant has served this neighborhood for quite a while. It knows the place well. So the activities suggested are not just some plans. I think they have got practical experience here. We talked about a meta universe nowadays. So this small place together with meta universe will have tremendous opportunities. Ma Wan can give it its brand name. Ma Wan is not a simple place. In 1997, we had an architectural site here, which was among the 10 major architectural sites in the country. So this is an interesting place. Next. The lady in the second row, in the middle. I'm from Mingpao. My question relates to King Yineng. Two previous proposals fell through, and there is news that the government has relaxed some of its restrictions, and we are quite concerned about the swimming pool. We'd like to know whether there will be any alteration to the pool. Will there be any building there? Again, about Feng Yun Study Hall. In the past, the circulation was too low, and the previous operator decided to hand back the venue. Now, for this applicant, it may be familiar with the place, but will the government give it extra support and assistance to prevent another failure? And are you happy with the number of applications received? It seems that the response is just so-so compared with previous batches. All right, we received a total of 72 applications for 5 items. For a batch 114 for 7 sites. Sometimes we only got 5 or 4. Now, 38 for batch 2, 34 for batch 3, 26 for batch 4, 34 for batch 5. So this time the response was enthusiastic. For us, we do not have any minimum we don't have any threshold. We want the public to understand the importance of these historic buildings. Now, on the one hand, we want to conserve the historic building, and the space available can be used for meaningful activities to the community. In fact, there is full of creative ideas in the community. For instance, the training of guide dogs, well, it proves to be a success. For Fengyuan Study Hall, you mentioned the lack of visitors or circulation. I think there is more to do with a change in the direction of the operator. If it is a small project, then the expenses will be lower. And then I think we should give it a try as well. There aren't too many projects that have aborted. One is Fengyuan, the other is the North Kowloon Magistracy, that is Savannah Institute, because it decided to pull off Hong Kong, and so the site was returned to us. Now, if we have too many worries, then our hands will be tied. I think the spirit is to let the operators have a go, and we'll give the best assistance and support we can to these applicants. I think for these projects, I think they are feasible. I don't know whether Professor Lau has anything to add on King Yin Lane. To be honest, when we launched King Yin Lane in batch 1, we felt that the architecture was too gorgeous. So we added more weight to the first and second requirements. And then after 2 attempts, we didn't see any difference. So this time, the 5 requirements are given equal weighting, just like other projects. So we don't feel that we have relaxed our requirements for King Yin Lane, because we have 5 standard criteria to assess the applications. We have been in this scheme for 14 years. We are very familiar with the application of the 5 criteria. There is no question of awarding King Yin Lane by relaxing the requirements. As far as I understand, the swimming pool will be kept, but then there may be a garden next to it. The lady at the back, the second from the right. I'm from Cable TV. Good afternoon. So you have reserved $586 million for the works, and also $12 million for recurrent expenditure. This is quite substantial. How can you convince the public that money will be well spent? And when do you think you can break even? And when can the revitalization be completed and these places open to the public? Professor Lau said that King Yin Lane was frequently used for location shooting, but another one, Jumbo Floating Restaurant, will leave Hong Kong today. And it's a pity. So is there an opportunity for a Jumbo to be included in the revitalization scheme? Is there anything more the government can do? Secretary for Development, there are rumors that you will become the Deputy Secretary for Financial Secretary. Do you have anything to say about this?
Well, for your second and third questions are really exciting questions. So will you repeat the first question, please? The project will cost $560 million and $18 million. So will be the operating expenses. How can you convince the public that we are spending money where we should? Will this be financially sustaining? Well, if you look at the budget in the budget, the government has injected $800 billion. In total, we have $3.6 billion, and we have $400 million left. We have injected $2.7 billion for the 6 projects. And because of the need for conservation, the experts would ascertain whether the conservation work would be reasonable. If the buildings have to be conserved, we have to do the conservation work, otherwise it might crumble. And every time we go to LegCo for funding, the LegCo would give us support. And I'm sure that there is a groundswell of support for the conservation work in the community. If you ask me whether we're getting the money's worth, the answer is definitely yes. Next question, please. Lady at the back.
We've noticed that the King In Lee's operator, the Tianda Institute, it has a primary focus on political and security issues. So why is it interested in conserving the King In Lee project? And we have also noticed that among the 4 buildings in this scheme, 2 will be operated by organizations concerned with national education. So will this round of application put too much focus on this kind of organizations, and why do you pick them? And next, we would like to know more about the King In Lee's operation, especially on how it will make sure it will be a financially viable project, given the site constraint, like it cannot have too many traffics and it can't be too busy and so on. Lastly, we'd like to know more about the Secretary's future plans, especially on we have noticed that there are some reports saying that you may become the Deputy Finance Secretary in the future. So we would like to know more about that, and we would also like to know how do you view your own performance in your terms of office, especially when Hong Kong's land supply continues to lag behind targets. Thank you.
I think I'll invite Professor Lau to address your first few questions on King In Lee and on the choice of some of the contestants.
Okay, thank you. The case of King In Lee has attracted much attention from the public because it's a very beautiful building, and it has a very lovely history. And but then it is a very challenging place to revitalize because it is located in the mid-level of Wan Chai, and the first problem came into our attention is the traffic assessment, and so the partner shouldn't be put forward a very grand idea to operate this beautiful house. So we've been looking for an organization, an applicant, which fit into this context, this environment, and of course without creating much complaints from local residents. So I think this time we have this International Poor Tea Association and Chinese Medicine Tianda Institute is a very nice partner to work out this operation. And also for the question on too much national education, I guess probably this is what the society is looking for, because I remember last time we offer quite some partners who are operating therapies, all sort of therapies. So probably that was a time that Hong Kong was in need of therapy. So this time we're talking about education is a very important future of Hong Kong. I guess other than national education, you can see that some partners have put effort on promoting STEM or STEAM education. So in fact, back to our principle is that we do not provide guidance for applicants on what kind of business would fit into which project. So basically, we honor the ideas, the proposal of applicants. So and came up with these successful cases. Thank you.
由於時間關係，我哋答多。
In the interest of time, we take 2 last questions.
Sticking to English, perhaps Professor Lau's mentioned earlier on in your Chinese remarks. Can you explain why King Yin Lei would be a good place for Chinese tea and Chinese medicine promotion? Like you talked about, like how does it match? Like, can you explain that also as well? My second question is about the. I can read the description you provided with the media that you plan to build 2 lifts, one inside the King Yin Lei monument. Can you explain whether the projects on site, the new lifts and the staircase to the pool, how will that affect the monument itself? Like, is there extra barriers or hurdles that you need to get over when you try to build these new facilities? Thank you.
Well, perhaps I can answer the first one because I mentioned something about this in Chinese. You can see that King Yin Lei is a residence. So we have this in our mind that the partner or the business that is going to be operated here should be something closer to running a family, like you wake up in the morning, you have breakfast there, and then you have lunch, afternoon tea. You probably would like to throw a party in the evening, accommodating a certain number of guests, like 10, 20s, and without creating too much trouble, too much noise for your neighbors, because when we did it in about 10 years ago, before we got into the process, we received complaints already from quite many neighbors that they didn't want to have a partner there running music or all sort of activities that will create a quite different ambience for this neighborhood. So I think having tea, you don't want to create too much noise when you drink tea, and Chinese herb, Chinese medicine, those are pretty mild, more on the cultural side of activities. And so far, we haven't received any inquiries or complaints from the neighbors. So that means they've been keeping an eye on our process. But I guess they're quite sure that the committee would allow something stupid to do there. Thank you. The technical issue about the lift, I guess.
Yes. Actually, I can try to. The provision of barrier-free access means is one thing that we actually would do for every conservation projects. That is a challenge, of course. How to do it in a manner that is not obtrusive, that will not impact negatively on the main building characteristics and also would not impact negatively on the architectural design. But let me assure you that this is something that can be done. I don't know whether you have been to the Sun Yat-sen Museum up at King Road. If you look inside carefully, additional lifts have been provided. That's for barrier-free access. But that is done in a manner that is very discreet. So for King Yin Lei, there will be challenges, but the challenges can be overcome.
最後一個問題。
Last question. The gentleman in white in the third row. I'd like to ask about the prospect of the scheme. I'd like to know the financial situation of the scheme. Now we're in the 6th batch. I don't know whether you have enough balance for batch 7 or batch 8. How many more batches do you expect? And how many items do you still have in mind? Now this is our thinking. Now there are 5 projects in batch 5 or batch 6. We hope that we will have a selected applicant for the North Kowloon Magistracy. So we will try to take forward the projects in the coming couple of years as soon as possible. We hope that in 2024 we can accept applications for batch 7. We are identifying suitable historic buildings for the scheme. I'm not too worried about the financial situation. We still have over $400 million left. Depending on the number of historic buildings we can identify for batch 7, and depending on the conditions and characteristics, because the money required for conservation would depend on the conditions of the building, and if need be, we can secure more funding from LegCo. That ends the Q&A session. If I may address some of the questions put to me previously about myself. When it comes to the arrangements for the next term of government, I ask for your patience. It's already mid-June. I'm sure announcements will be made soon. For myself, it's simple. If I have the opportunity to serve the community in a suitable position, I'm happy to do so. Speakers off mic. The Jumbo Floating Restaurant, we don't have anything new on that for the time being because the chief executive has made very clear last week. Now, let me share with you this. Not all conservation proposals can reach the final goal. Some may be successful, some may fail. As far as the seafood, Jumbo Seafood Restaurant is concerned, our colleagues at Tourism Board and also the Ocean Park have spent more than a year in negotiations, and they failed to reach an appropriate agreement. After all, it is private asset, and the owner has decided to move this restaurant out of Hong Kong. In fact, it started to leave Hong Kong this morning. For other items in Hong Kong, now for conservation projects of a larger scale. Now for Horton Garden in 2010, the government tried very hard to come to an agreement, but then the building was pulled down. And then the pawn shop in Wan Chai, we tried very hard to reach an agreement, but there was no consensus. I hope you can look at this matter positively. We have succeeded in a number of cases. For example, Blue House Cluster in Wan Chai, in Stanley, Marino Father's Quarters, we came up with a proposal to keep the most valuable part. And King Yin Lane is another example, and also Kane Road 23, or Cam Road 23. So for each and every item, we will do our utmost. And even if we do not succeed in our attempt, we ask for the community's understanding. Thank you very much. We have a photo call for the successful applicants and the speakers.
多謝啊！我哋落嚟都。
或者我哋俾後邊
Can we allow cameramen at the back? Those in the front, please kneel.
好，跟住我哋再有4張。
Okay, 4 more photos. All right. Titan took raw water pumping station staff quarters compound. The successful applicant. Live Wire Foundation Limited.
好，唔該大家。咁而家有請。
All right, next. The selected applicants of Homby Villa, representatives of National History Education Hong Kong Limited.
Next,
the selected applicant of King Yin Lane Tianda Institute. The selected applicant of Fong Yun Study Hall, the Boys Brigade, Hong Kong.
記者會而家結束。
The press conference ends here. Thank you very much for your attendance. I want to thank representatives of the 4 selected applicants for attending the briefing. Thank you.